In the previous section, we've started learning Vue. In this section, we'll dive deeper into this framework. Specifically, we're going to take a look at handling user interaction, binding form inputs, managing state with Vuex, plugins, and finally, testing. In this video, we're going to focus on handling user interaction. In this video, we'll add share button, we'll see how to use the-on directive, and finally, how to work with event modifiers. This is our application. We're going to add share button to each post. In our article preview component, we are adding a post share div. It's going to contain similar style to post date. If we look into CSS, we've added just here post share next to post date, so they both share this style. But in addition, post share is floated to right. Let's go to browser. This is how our share button looks like. Now we want to add logic to it. It is going to show us the link for the post so we can copy it and share somewhere, for example, on some social media platform. So let's go back to our application. We want a link to post be displayed when user clicks share button. To do this, we need to handle user interaction. We need to handle a click event. Let's go to article preview component. Currently, it looks like this. Let's use post share div to display either share or link to post, depending whether user clicked the button. So let's make this a span. And let's make another span with link to the post. For purpose of this video, let's just hard code the domain. Then let's use post root. And at the end, let's use post ID. We also need to remove text transform uppercase, so when user copies the text, it's going to copy like in the lowercase instead of all uppercase. So let's go to CSS. In post share, we need to add text transform none. We can also see that we've adjusted the width of post share element to 200 pixels, and we've added cursor pointer to be shown when user hovers over post share element. Now in our template, we need to manually write share in uppercase. Now, when user clicks share, we need to make sure to show the link instead of share. So we need to create a Boolean variable in our data. Let's call it link visible. And by default, it's false. Now let's make sure our share is only visible when link visible is set to false. We're going to use if to achieve that. Now we need to make sure that link is visible only when link visible is true. However, we can use if else to achieve that. So we can move this link higher. And to not invert the link visible property when using it, we're going to use link visible for the link and remove this inverse of logic. And here we're only going to use velse. And this is our simple logic to show either link or share button. For now, we see just share text, which is fine. Now we need to handle the click event and change link visible. To handle events in Vue, we can use v-on. Now we need to pass name of the event. It could be click, it could be key up, key down, all JavaScript events that you are already familiar with. In our case, we want to do this on click. Now we can pass method we want to call on this click event. We can also execute here JavaScript. So in our example, we want to set link visible to true when user clicks share text. Okay, so once again, first we use onDirective, then we need to specify event name. Then we can either pass name of the method which should be called or JavaScript to be executed. In our example, we set link visible boolean property from our data to true. Let's go to our application. Let's click on share text. We can see here's our link displayed. Now we can copy it and post somewhere else. This is how simple event handling in Vue can be. Let's go back to our application. And instead of using full onDirective, let's use shorthand. We can use @sign. So this looks even simpler. Let's go to our application. We can see it still works. Events in Vue can also have different event modifiers. For example, we can use dot and use once modifier. In this example, this event will be handled only once, and then event listener will be detached. There's also stop modifier for stop propagation, and prevent to prevent default. For example, let's see how prevent modifier works. For now, let's remove it. And instead of span, let's use form element. And inside it, let's use button with type submit. So we change span to be a button with type submit. We've created our form and button, but we also need to move span inside our form. It's because our conditional rendering and using if-else, which need to be on the same level. We've also added action method, so our button with type submit is going to redirect to this if we don't prevent the default. To fully visualize the problem, we need to also move from vif to vshow. So it's not going to remove elements from DOM, but instead it's going to show or hide them. With vshow, we can't use else, so we need to add another condition here. This is how our code would look if we would use vshow. And in our example, we also use form and button with type submit, which is share button. Now let's go to application and see what happens. For now, let's don't mind the style of this button. Let's click it and see what happens. Our link should be shown. But instead, our form is submitted. This is the default behavior of button with type submit, which is inside form element. So we need to use prevent default. And okay, we can use this in our method, which would be called in Vue. However, we can use event modifier. So let's go to our code. Here's our event. Now, at the end, let's add modifier. The modifier which we are going to use is prevent, which stands for calling prevent default method. Now let's go back to our application. Okay, another try. But now we've added prevent modifier to our event. Let's click Share button. And everything works. Default behavior is prevented and our form is not submitted. Our link is shown instead. So you can see how event modifiers can be useful to you. If we would go with using full notation instead of using shorthand, it would look like this. I'm showing this to you because I feel it's important to know the full notation. First, we use the_on directive. Next, we use event name. At the end, we can add as many event modifiers using dot as we want. For example, we could also use self, so only this element could trigger that event. Using form and button with type submit was done only for demonstration purposes, and we don't want to have such additional elements in our application, so we're going to remove them. And we're back to using default event handling without any modifiers, as we can see here. In this video, we've seen how to handle user interaction using events.